Take a look at what happened.
The failed assassination attempt and instantly iconic images of Trump raising his fist in defiance sent his supporters into overdrive.
You see a guy who gets shot and he then fights his own agents and says, fight, fight, fight. Let me be very clear. If you are a man in this country and you don't vote for Donald Trump, you're not a man.
This is a man's world.
During the 4-day Republican National Convention held in Milwaukee, speaker after speaker praised Trump as the embodiment of masculine virility.
And they tried to kill the next President of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother.
Trump's choice of Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his vice presidential running mate accentuated the GOP's effort to position itself as the men's party.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
For anyone who had somehow missed the RNC's explicit nod to masculinity, the GOP distributed thousands of placards to make things perfectly clear. As the calls for Biden to step down grew in volume and frequency, he abruptly dropped out and endorsed his VP Kamala Harris, paving the way, once again, for a battle of the sexes. The new race between incumbent Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump provided an even starker binary choice than two aged white men. All of a sudden, it was young versus old, prosecutor versus criminal, and perhaps most poignantly, woman versus man. For the second time in 8 years, a man whose political identity was rooted in old-school ideas about manhood and misogyny would be running against a woman. Only this time, his opponent was a woman of Black and Asian heritage, whose persona was both fearless and fun-loving. Like a long line of women in politics before her, Harris knew that as a presidential candidate, she would face questions about her strength and would need to prove, above and beyond male candidates, that she had the resolve to be commander-in-chief.
The one thing Kamala Harris has always been: fearless. As a prosecutor, she put murderers and abusers behind bars.
But Harris also famously loved to laugh.
I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
In some quarters, she was criticized for this, as if having a sense of humor or expressing joy somehow undermined her credibility or political gravitas.
All right, your giggling Vice President Kamala Harris strikes again. Like, you wouldn't hire a babysitter if they showed up at your house and just started laughing.
Once again, exposing the double bind that women face in needing to project seriousness of purpose, yet remain likable and retain their traditional femininity. The near-impossible tightrope that American women politicians are forced to walk.
What? To be a man and then vote for a woman just because she's a woman is either childish, that person has mommy issues, or they're just trying to be accepted by other women. And I heard the scientists say the other day that when a man votes for a woman, he actually transitions into a woman.
Harris's entry into the presidential campaign energized millions. Women, people of color, self-proclaimed white dudes for Harris, and progressives. She quickly began to draw enormous crowds and raised record amounts of money.
Welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Her selection of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her vice presidential running mate was almost certainly designed to ease the anxieties of white men and women about the prospects of the first woman, let alone first woman of color, to be elected president.
I was born in West Point, Nebraska. I lived in Butte, a small town of 400, where community was a way of life.
Walz was uniquely qualified for the role. He grew up on a farm in a small town. He served 24 years as a non-commissioned officer in the Army National Guard. He was a high school teacher and championship high school football coach. By all accounts, he was comfortable around strong women, and in supporting women's rights. And he was willing to take on the misogyny of Trump and Vance.
And these guys are weird on how they frame it. They are obsessed, and I said it the other day, the He-Man Woman Haters Club. I don't know where this is coming from, and I'll have to tell you today here in Minnesota.
Moving forward, the question of how white male voters, especially those in the pivotal battleground states, will approach the top of the ticket remains to be seen. Will they continue to throw their support behind white male-dominated movements, as we've seen historically? Or will they break with long-standing voting patterns and thus help to redefine the highest office of the United States, and with it, a key part of the nation's very identity?
Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win. God bless you. God bless you.
A woman in the position of president changes our perception of the role, by definition. And it's hard to overstate the impact on the American psyche of seeing a woman leader in the Oval Office. Only time will tell what sort of changes may occur when it comes to politics and policy. But the broader question remains, is America finally ready to turn a page in our history and take a new path into the 21st century?